Hello, it's Leslie here. So today I wanted to make a video about why I have failed to learn Japanese, but I've pretty much succeeded in learning, or at least understanding, Russian. And I wanted to talk about the idea that people have, for example, my psychologist thinks that, oh, I'm good at languages. I mentioned it to her that I'm studying several languages and she can't sort of remember which ones all the time. And she thinks that I'm naturally good at languages. And I don't think that's true because if you watch my first video, you'll see that I'm not good at languages. I'm not automatically good at languages. I wasn't good at French, which is the first language that I was taught in high school, and German. I don't remember any German. And I actually failed English at high school. And it's because I didn't study. I didn't read the books. I didn't study. So I don't think there's any such thing as someone that's good at languages. I think that's a misconception. I think people like polyglots are good at studying languages, and there's a difference. Like, they're good at studying the language, right? And so I don't think there's anyone that's inherently good at languages, except, of course, like there's people that grow up in a multilingual environment. I'm not talking about those people because they're lucky. Those sort of, those people that speak 3 or 4 languages because their parents speak that language and they've been exposed to. I'm talking about learning language as an adult and choosing which language you want to learn. So why have I failed Japanese? First off, I think it's because I'm trying to learn too many languages. So I'm trying to maintain Spanish, pick up learning Italian and Russian, and even a bit of Finnish. And then at the same time, trying to squeeze Japanese into it. And there's just not enough time for me to devote to Japanese. And I prefer to improve my Russian at the moment more than starting from scratch and learning a completely new language, because it's very hard. It's a hurdle, and it's very similar to learning a language as an adult. It doesn't matter which language it is. It is quite difficult. Even an easy language, a Romance language, you still have to put in a lot of effort. You still have to look up 2,000 words. So it's still a lot of effort. It's not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's very possible, but it's not easy. So, getting back to Japanese, I mean, the grammar that I've seen with Japanese is actually easier than Russian, and there's more Japanese words that are borrowed from English. So, apart from the fact that I haven't devoted enough time to it, I've been too greedy. There's other reasons as well why I haven't succeeded in Japanese. So for example, in the beginning, when I learned Spanish and Russian and Italian. And by the way, I don't speak Italian. I can understand it. It's a bit different. So I prefer to learn with audio in the beginning to learn the vocabulary. That I do a few audio courses that get you the basic vocabulary, and then I move to television later on. But in the case of Japanese, I've stopped listening to Japanese. I used to listen to all this audio when I was traveling in the car. And I have an older car that I'm borrowing at the moment. And it doesn't have a Bluetooth in it. It doesn't have a USB connection for MP3s. It's only got CDs. So that's a big limitation. So in the past, I bought a FM transmitter. So you plug it into the cigarette lighter, and then the signal comes through the radio, and so you can listen to what's on your phone through the radio essentially. But the thing with that was, it was always unplugging itself and turning itself off, which is a pain in the ass because then I have to plug it back in while I'm trying to drive. And there was also static. So I didn't get around to buying anything else. Like, I could have bought Japanese CDs as audio material, but I didn't do that. and I could have tried to fix this thing, but I didn't get around to it. So one of the tips that I have for you is to don't delay purchasing the things that prevent you from learning language, right? So in my case, what I'm going to do now, I've recognized this, and I'm going to buy a Bluetooth adapter that plugs in the back of the radio to convert my car into a proper Bluetooth thing, so I can finally get the MP3s off my phone. And it'll be, hopefully, if it works, I'll solve that problem and I'll be able to listen to Japanese while I'm driving, because it's a great time while you're driving, if it's on a country road anyway, because I spend a few, I don't commute, but I do spend a few hours here and there traveling back and forward to doctors and psychologists, and sometimes I go back to Sydney, so those hours eventually add up. Anyway, I haven't done that with Japanese, so that's one thing. I haven't done it. I haven't found content that's that enjoyable for me. Like, I haven't found many YouTube channels that I could identify with and bond with. I found a couple, but in one case they deleted all their videos, all the beginner videos from the channel. So that's another thing I wanted to say, is if you find a good language learning channel, then consider donating to them with Patreon, because I've seen it now a couple of times, even with a Russian channel. Some people take their videos off, and it's really annoying if you found someone and then they take their videos off. So I donate to a few different Russian channels with Patreon, and I'm happy to do that. So I haven't found many things in Japanese, but then I haven't spent that long trying to find those things. I might have spent a day or two, but I didn't keep at it trying to find more and more and more. And that's another thing with languages. I noticed my sister, for example, she tried to learn Greek. She doesn't spend enough time looking for quality, enjoyable, fun material. She just gets one thing and one thing only, and then usually it's a tape or something, and then gets given that and doesn't spend enough time trying to find the right sort of learning stuff. So I haven't done that in the case of Japanese. It's really hard because it is a bit of a different language. They're very different. I think Japanese people are very different. I think we as Westerners are more similar to Russians than we are to Asian people, our culture. So it's hard for me to find content that I could sit through at the right level. I just haven't persisted. Like, I should say, I use the words persistence and perseverance, but when I have studied Japanese in the past, I persisted with the lesson, and I did the lesson. I might have done half an hour. I didn't turn it off halfway through, for example, through my car journey. I would listen to the Japanese, fine, but I didn't persist with that every single day or most days per week. I let it lapse, and it's been weeks, months since I learned Japanese, and I've forgotten everything. Well, not everything. I've forgotten a lot of the things that I learned. I spend a lot of time listening to one particular CD over and over and over again, and I've forgotten many things. Of course, it's easier to remember the second time around, but I didn't recall that information often enough for me to put it into long-term memory. So that's what I need to pause this because I have something stuck in my eye. So with Russian, I've been very careful not to fall into that trap of forgetting something after a couple of months. Like, I went away to focus on Italian for a couple of months, and I came back and I hadn't actually forgotten much. And it's because I try to maintain it all the time. I'm all the time listening to Russian pretty much every day. At least 15 minutes every day I listen to Russian. So I'm probably over 1,000 hours at the moment with Russian. Whereas with Japanese, I'm barely at probably 50 hours. So I just haven't persisted with Japanese, and that's partly because of time management. I'm too busy doing other things like maintaining my Russian, or trying to improve my Italian, or trying to do beginner Finnish. I have a bit of a negative mindset with Japanese as well. I think my sister tried to learn Japanese at high school, and she was good at it. But I think some of this negativity has rubbed off onto me about how difficult it is to learn Japanese. And I think I've just picked up on this negativity, like it's never going to happen, it's never going to happen. So with Russian, I have a different mentality. I think it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. And I almost feel that with Russian, it's pretty much inevitable, because I'm looking up so many words. Here's the thing, I don't just sit there watching TV and it all goes in passively. When I'm watching the TV in Russian, I look up every word I don't know, pretty much. At the moment, I do. In the beginning, it was too tedious to look up every single word, so I looked up the most frequently appearing words. Now, I pretty much look up anything I don't know. I have this curiosity about Russian that I want to know what it all means. So I've had that. I don't have that mindset with Japanese. I haven't actually tried to sit down and watch something Japanese yet, because it's going to be too difficult, because I don't have a big enough vocabulary. So I haven't actually got to I haven't got to the intermediate stage yet with Japanese. Anyway, speaking about looking up the words, it's very hard to look up that number of words. Like, you might need 2,000 or 3,000 words. It's not easy. It might not sound like that much, but it's not easy to do. But I know with Russian, for example, there's going to come a time when I won't have to look up many words at all. I won't have to look up any words, maybe in a whole episode. So I know that's going to happen pretty soon, where I'm going to be able to sit through the whole thing, and I'm not going to have to look up quite so many words now as I did in the beginning. So it feels good. I'm over the hurdle with Russian, but with Japanese, it hasn't happened that way for me yet. So I'm hoping as I get more proficient at Russian, I hope to devote some of that time over to Japanese. So I hope that will happen. But I'm almost anyway. The main thing is, my priority at the moment is still Russian, and that therefore my Japanese has really suffered a lot. If my priority was Japanese, I'd probably be doing a lot better than I am now. But I'm trying to get it across to you that it's not easy to learn any language, really. It takes a lot of commitment. So, for example, I liken it to learning a martial art. So, you might be able to get to a black belt or whatever in karate with enough going. If you go 3 times a week to the karate school, within 5 years you might be a black belt. But imagine, how many people do you know that have a black belt in karate, and a black belt in taekwondo, and a black belt in ninjutsu? You don't see it very often. And that's about like what we're dealing with. If you want to learn more than one, it takes a shitload of effort. So, well, not 8 hours a day effort, but it takes years and years and years. If you're learning 1 or 2 hours a day, it takes years to be able to learn more than one. The other thing is, I haven't set any goals with Japanese. Like, I have a goal, but I haven't set intermediate goal. Like, my goal would be to ask for directions in Japanese, because one of the reasons I'd like to learn it is because I had culture shock over there, and I wanted to be able to ask where things were and how to get to the hostel, and I couldn't do that, and I didn't have a smartphone. So one of the reasons I would like to learn it is so I'm not put in that position again, because it was so stressful that I feel like it's, if I ever go back to Japan, hopefully I will, I'd prefer to put in 1,000 hours of practice rather than experience 1 hour of culture shock. You know, that's how I feel. And the same thing happened to me in Russia. I got culture shock there, but I'll make a separate video about that. So I haven't set intermediate goals. Yeah, one of the goals would be to ask for directions, but I haven't set a goal like, for example, one of the goals that I have had in Finnish was to watch all the videos on a certain channel, like the finished YouTube channel. And another goal was to watch all the videos on another channel. Yeah, so I did that, but I haven't done the same thing in Japanese. Like, I've done a couple of mini goals in the beginning, like I'll finish this course, the Japan Society course. The one, it has, I'm looking at it here, lesson 1 has 6.4 million views. I finished that course. I set the goal to finish that course, and I finished that course, but I didn't then set another goal when I finished that course. You know, what happened was I set a goal to carry on, and then with another YouTube channel, and those, as I said, I did that like after that, but then I wanted to repeat that, and then those videos got taken off the channel. So then I was kind of left fumbling around and didn't know what to do, and I didn't then think, well, now I'll do something else instead. I pretty much just aborted. It wasn't even conscious. I just didn't. All my time went over to Russian automatically. I didn't make I didn't have a contingency plan. So, for example, when I'm doing Russian, I always have some sort of plan. Like, I just finished watching Psikologini. I think I pronounced that wrong before. Psikologini. And what happened was I started watching the 5th season of Senya Fyodor, and then there was only 5 episodes there, and there was supposed to be more because they appeared in December. And then I thought, what am I going to do? I'll watch Psikologini. I watched 2 seasons of that. I also watched the Chernobyl Zona Отчуждения. And when I finish the series, I pretty much have, by the time I've learnt this, by the time I've got to the end of the series, around about when I'm approaching the end, I think, right, what am I going to watch next? So before I get to the end of the series, I already know what I'm going to watch next. In this case, or at least I have several things what I could watch on my list of what's next. So because I found that after, it's all right. I have enough motivation to finish watching a series of doing a course, but it's at the end of the course when I often, if I don't know what I'm doing, then I don't start the next thing straight away, and then all of a sudden I'm a week of not studying any languages. So, for example, with Russian, the next show that I watch will probably be either Chikatilo, the serial killer thing, or the oligarch's wife. And also, I've already decided to go back to Senya Fyodor and continue with that because those other episodes have appeared. So this is what I'm finding. I'm finding enough content continually to keep it an ongoing thing, so I don't ever stop. But with Japanese, that hasn't happened. I've started several things. I haven't continued with them. There might have been a few reasons for that. Like I said, I stopped listening to it in the car. That was probably one of the big things I did wrong, was not get the Bluetooth adapter. So I recommend if there's something preventing you from continuing with your language, that say you need, I don't know, a four-way adapter to plug in your media center so that you can, just get the four-way adapter and just plug it in so that you can do it. So my other languages are going okay. My Finnish is slowly improving. I need to go back now and review some Italian and listen to some Italian series. And I'm hoping maybe I'll devote more time to Japanese after. I just don't feel like I have enough time to devote to it at the moment. But I think what I'll do is get this Bluetooth adapter, listen to it in the car, Japanese that is, and then I think I have to sort of set an end date for when I've stopped learning Russian and it's more maintenance. In the case of Spanish, that's it. I stopped learning Spanish and it's just maintenance. So I have to get to that stage with Russian. And the other thing I wanted to say is, well, you can never stop learning a language. Like some of these languages, they're very deep, meaning like English, you can learn way more English words. You can never stop. Like there's a point where you can just keep looking up new words. Have you ever read a book and it's an advanced book and you've learnt new English words? Well, the same can happen in Spanish or Russian. You can just keep learning new words all the time. But I don't want to read Russian literature to that point. I would rather then switch over to a new language like Finnish or Japanese and try and get that to a decent level. So I think I have to set an end date for Russian, which will probably be, well, it could be my birthday, for example, which is the 31st of July, and I'll be turning 45, so that might be that date. That's the date I've set to start reading a Russian book, my first Russian book. So I think around that date I might try and prioritize Japanese higher up the list. So that's what I might do. Anyway, I wanted to make this video to show you a couple of things, like maybe you can learn from my mistakes. Also, you can at least get the idea that it's difficult for anyone to learn another language. It's no such thing as someone that's good at languages. It's like you're good at studying it. And in my case, I'm not good at studying Japanese. So I have to figure out why. And I think it's because it's two things. One is the car audio situation. My car doesn't have the right inputs from my phone. And also I need to work harder at finding more interesting content in Japanese at the intermediate level, and then see how I go. But I'm worried because from what I've seen, not many Japanese series, I'm not that interested. I haven't seen any that I think to myself, I really want to watch that. Whereas with Russian, what happened was I found a lot of series that I could identify with, that they have similar humor at least. So I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen in Japanese, because I've heard that Japanese television is pretty bad. So, and I was sort of seeing that. So I'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Anyway, thank you for watching. That's all I wanted to say today. Thank you. Bye.